Okay, let me take that forward and talk a little bit about what happened this week. And we got a flurry of mid-cap IT names, right? The previous week was all about the large-cap IT names, but this week we had numbers coming in from Persistent, L&T Tech, Coforge, Cyient, Happiest Minds, so many of the smaller ones also reporting. The key takeaway is that the mid-cap IT performance was very divergent. The large-cap IT performance was consistent. HCL, TCS, Infi all met expectations, did better. But in the case of IT earnings this time, Persistent, Coforge looked better than what the street was anticipating. And on the flip side, you had Emphasis and L&T disappointing. So the key takeaway is that the mid-cap IT performance is far more diverse. To elaborate on that point, L&T Tech downgraded its revenue guidance, but on the flip side, you had Coforge upgrading its guidance. So that's point number one. Unlike large caps, where the performance was consistent, mid-cap performance was far more divergent. The next point is, despite all the noise about macro uncertainty, slowing down on deal with, slow decision making, the deal wins this time have been very strong, even for the companies which have missed expectations. Take a look at Emphasis. Emphasis was a miss in Q3 numbers. It was impacted by their mortgage business, but Emphasis' new deal wins were the second highest on record. Coforge reported its highest ever order intake in the current quarter. Now, the point is that typically when the situation, when the external environment is far more uncertain, it's the large caps which generally have a steadier performance compared to the mid caps. And the reason is mid caps have a greater client concentration, a geographical concentration, or a vertical concentration. So if any of the drivers hit or if any of the legs misfire, then the stocks get impacted. In the case of Emphasis, for instance, they have a near 8-9% exposure to the mortgage business, right? Now that entire leg is not firing. In fact, it's declining for them. It saw a sequential decline of 20%. And that's the risk when it comes to mid-cap IT because they have a far higher concentration, either in top clients or in terms of specific verticals, unlike large caps, which have a more diversified base in terms of clients, geography, and even the kind of services that they offer. And that helps them tide through any kind of volatility in the macro environment. And one more final point, we were talking about valuations of mid-cap IT. Take a look at Persistent. Persistent is one of the most expensive mid-cap IT companies. Yet, on the back of good numbers, the street rewarded it. Persistent ends up with a gain of close to about 8%, despite it being very expensive. So that's telling, right, that there is interest in IT, despite the high valuations for some of them. If the companies can give you the confidence that they can tide over this rough patch.
Let's ask the man next to you what he makes of IT. Pratik, any interest?
Actually, yes. So we as a house continue to be underweight IT, but versus the earlier level of underweight, we are now getting closer to where the index is, though still underweight. Now the point is, while there is uncertainty in the external environment, we have seen